Hello, friends, and welcome back. We are in episode 9 of our foundation tutorial series on ZOAPIIO. Hopefully, this is the last episode in our series because we have completed almost all of the application. And one thing which we said right in the very first episode is that we will get back and look at the customization features in ZOAPIIO. Okay, what we did in the beginning is we took a configuration file, uh, ran it through the wizard, and we got our mid-office application generated with no coding at all. But in real life, that's a little too idealistic to expect. So here we're going to close the loop on that. We're going to talk about the customization that is required or that is possible in the wizard. So we're going to do that using by adding a new feature to our mid office, which is that of cancellation. So that means an agent who logs into mid office can respond to a request from a customer and cancel the booking. So first thing is we write. This is another thing which we said we will come back to. That's the entry point proclet. So the cancellation is a process that will be executed on the server. So we have written a service. It's almost like a web service with a subtle difference. It's a process, pretty much like a web service. That's also a process. But the difference is that this process is local in scope. Okay, this also has a URL. If I show you the definition, this also has a URL. It always starts with /proc. It also has a request path and a response path. It doesn't have much else. It doesn't have the request format and the response format because these are this is an internal call. This can be called from anywhere in your instance. And one another advantage is that you don't have to worry about authentication and authorization. So this is like a routine which is available to you across all projects of your instance. And uh, and we expect that the cancellation is a process which may be invoked, which may need to be invoked from other contexts. Okay, maybe the customer failed to complete the payment, or a lot of other things can happen. So we may need to call this. So we declare it as a proclet instead of a service. We could have written it as a service, and it would have worked perfectly fine. But the reason for making it a proclet is this. So let's see what we are doing here. So we'll complete this and then go back to the wizard and see how we connect this to the mid office. Okay. So we this as a request. Let's look at the quick look at the request, and we have a cancel RQ node. So we get the booking ID, which is to be cancelled. Uh, the charges that we're going to apply, in the sense, there's usually a cancellation fee, which we will charge, and the supplier may charge its own fee. And then there's a type, what kind of cancellation we're doing. We're doing against store credit, or there may be various options here. So this is the request. Will be, and when we declare this proclet, we request slash cancel RQ. That's the request we are attached to. And in the response, we have added a field here, which is just the status. And when this completes, it will just simply return whether it was okay or not. And status is an array, duplicating, returning. It's an array of strings. So we can return a status value and a status message. So here, let's see what we're doing. So first thing is we need to take the booking ID and fetch the booking details. Okay, this is done by a command using database fetch. We give the table name. Before we do the fetch, we have to assign a value to its ID, which is what we're doing in the top. So essentially, when we do a fetch, it expects that the value of ID would be populated before this fetch is called, and it simply fetches the record with that ID. It's simple. We know that always there'll be only one record that will correspond to ID. ID is distinct and unique. It's a unique key. Now, after we do the fetch, we check what status, the status of the command. So there is another sudo node underscore status. It tells us if the operation succeeded or failed. If it was zero, we know that it would have found the record and fetched it. Non-zero value means either the record was not found or something else went wrong. It couldn't fetch it. So we write the if block here. So if the status is greater than zero, then we return the response status as one and response status two, which is the second element of the status array, and we give a message booking not found. Then we have an else if. So the way you manipulate this is that you open this if else if, and I can attach more else ifs to this. For example, I can, so it'll open one more else if. Right now, I don't need, so I'll just remove and get back. Right. So if else if is basically, I'm sure you're familiar with the if construct in programming. Now, then we check that if this record was actually fetched, then we look at the current booking status. And if this is cancelled, then we say that, well, this booking is already cancelled, cannot be cancelled now. And there may be other validations like whether this booking can be cancelled. If the date has passed, then it can't be cancelled. I'm skipping those. I'm just doing only the essential checks. Now, at this point, we see that if the value of response status is 1, that means we can't proceed with the cancellation, we return. So return if this condition is true, it will return from here. The user will just get these two, 1 and the error message. Now now we have to create an amendment record. So we populate the amendment fields. So what we do is we have to create a parent ID. Parent ID will decide as to which booking this amendment applies to. So the parent ID is the same as what we got in the foundation booking ID. So we take that ID and attach it to the amendment's parent ID. Then we populate some other fields. Amendment type, amendment date is today's date. Charges we got from the request, we'll populate the charges. Supplier fee, we apply the supplier fee. And the refund amount is the price amount minus charges minus supplier fee. And finally, what we do is we change the status in the booking. So that's why you're using the full path /foundation/booking status is cancelled. These are the updates we're going to make. Then we save the amendment table and we save the booking table. That means these updates will be made to the database. And we tell the user that yes, everything is okay, status is 0, and message is okay. So this is a process, cancellation process we've implemented. It amends the booking, it makes changes, and returns. Okay. Now this process has to be attached to the front end. That's where the mid-office customizations comes into the picture. So let's go back and do a new project. Remember, we can do a new project at any time, right? I told you that if you make the changes to a configuration, we can just go ahead and run it again. It will not destroy the data that exists. It will just simply update the table structure based on whatever changes we made. So now this is the new configuration, and I'm going to open this in an online editor, and I'm going to show you the changes I've made. Okay, so first thing is there is now a customization block in the end, and in that, under the script section, I've added a new script. So just calling it miscellaneous because we're going to put all our front-end customization in a single file. We can create multiple files if you like and put them all in here. But since we don't have much, we just simply put it here. Now, the other kind of customization that you can do is you can have handlers, server-side handlers on events that happen on entities. So you can say before an entity is saved, do something. This is a server-side handler. Before an entity is like fetch, retrieve, list, you can apply the triggers. You can apply insert your logic at all those events. We can add custom pages. Properties we will leave, and widgets is an advanced subject. This is for dashboard creation. You can read it up in the documentation. And so, in terms of front end customization, we can create new pages, we can create custom uh, controls. So, when we're creating an entity, we can have our own control type. And so, there are other customization options. You can create an editor for the child entities. Again, you can read up in the documentation what all you can customize. Right, so I've added a script file, and what I've done is against the booking. So this is the definition of our booking entity, right? It's right here, name booking. I have added a section called commands. And in that command, I have added a command which label cancel. I've given it an icon, given it a name, given it some properties. Just like we give properties, we've given it to the command. Cancel fee, supplier fee, refund type, can be cash or store credit. Even given it a default value. And I have given a value to this field called editor. That means how this command will be executed. And this is a name of a class, f cancel process. System will assume that it is a JavaScript class. And I'm going to provide its implementation in the script file I've just added. Right? And that will be responsible for taking action when this command is invoked. So simple enough. Now let's quickly also open up. This is the script that we have added. It's a JavaScript. I have just used a text editor to create it. I've created a function, fcancel process. That's exactly what we had addressed there. So in JavaScript terms, this is a class. And then I have created a method on this class called execute. The execute name must be as it is because it will be invoked when the user triggers that action. And here, what we're doing, I'll just briefly walk you through. The properties, that's one that the user has typed. The form that the user has filled would come to as properties. And we will get a handle to the form. The form is the UI itself. We can interact with the form. So here, what we're doing is we are, from the props, we are extracting these three fields. And on the form, we are calling a method called getProperty to get the ID of the currently open entity. So that's our booking ID. All this is documented. You should be able to find these descriptions in the document. So I create a request object. These are the fields that we had configured on our Proclet. Booking ID, charges, supplier fee, and type. We put it all here. And then we invoke a service called the WAP/Proclet. Now, this is a fixed service which handles the execution of Proclets. And it expects two parameters. One is the URL of the Proclet, which is what we had given there, and the request as a string. So this is our request, and we serialize it and pass it as a second parameter. And then again, we invoke this get property on our form, which is going to execute this URL, this query, and get us the data. Then we check the data, what is the status, and if the status is not 0, then we display the status, and if everything is okay, we invoke another method on the property, on the form, which says reload entity. That means because the entity on the server has changed, we are just telling the form that reload the entity, everything went well. So this is the customization piece. Hopefully the pieces are all falling together. Right? You can now relate as to how these things are configured, attached, and how the system works. So here again, what I'm going to do is I'm going to say continue. And now it's going to ask me, because we have referenced a script file, it's going to ask me that please input that script file. So I'm going to say that miscellaneous foundation.js, this is the one. And then I say continue. Now we will proceed with the generation of the application again. And it has now incorporated the script, and I do a deploy. Okay, there's no change because this is already deployed. So we are good to go. Now, quickly, I will go back to the taxi service. And let's reload this page. Go to mid office, and I do a list. So this booking is still there. Remember, we did a regenerate of the entire application, but the data was not disturbed. Right? It's got all the details. Now I edit this. Now here under amendments, there's nothing because we haven't done anything. Now you will see this little action button here because this entity has got actions with it. So we click, and we'll get a menu of all the actions available. So I'm going to invoke it, and then we will get that form which we have configured in our configuration. So we say the cancellation is fee, let's say 100, and it's the same currency, which is the pounds. Buy fee is 100, the cash, and we say execute. So it got executed. We know because the status is now changed to cancelled. And if you open the amendments, we see this amendment record has appeared here. It's the charges are recorded, and it has taken the amount of booking and removed and subtracted this 200 to arrive at a refund amount. So this is how this is an example of how you can add functionality to the mid office or to the admin application through customization. Now, generally, you will find that most of the customization can be handled using either the custom control or commands. But sometimes you may want completely new pages. You can do that as well. That's for like really cases which can't be accommodated in this structure. So now this completes our entire application that we had started to build. And to recap, we have a mid office where we manage the bookings and everything. We have a front end from where we can do a search and create bookings. System automatically manages your login, logout functionality. Your registration, login, all that is managed. We created this entire front end with absolutely minimal programming, as you saw. And most of the programming that we did was writing the integration code with our supplier, which is the split supplier. It's right here. We use the split provider to actually to deal with the inventory of bookings. And yeah, it looks like we have now completed all the functionality that we wanted. The next step from here would be, I would advise is that you should go and read the documentation that's online. Create an account on the ZOAPIIO server, play around with it, do stuff, build your application, whatever you want to do. And if you have any questions, do email to us. You can directly email, there's an email ID. You can even raise a ticket from your admin panel. Do all that, and do let us know what you thought of the product and this tutorial. So I'm signing off now, and this is the last episode of this series. But I will be back with more tutorials and more documentation, and want to keep you updated on what's going on. So thank you for watching, and I wish you all the best.